'twas a very rough 24 hours from accidentally stepping on a nail, not my fault, to finding out my tetanus shot was overdue and my work's insurance was still being processed. I spent all of the night worried beyond belief because, I thought I was gonna die. I didn't really want to visit the ER just for a tetanus shot, so I had a little sippy sips of some wine and I passed out. No worries, I did the things that I was supposed to do immediately as it happened. I went, cleaned my foot, ran it under warm water and soap, and I finally did get my tetanus shot the next morning from Walgreens. And then the Ahsoka trailer dropped. You can find that reaction in the card above. So finally, after everything that's transpired, I sat down to write a script that was due this morning. Don't worry again. I got it done, and I got it done well. But after working on it for a couple of hours, I decided I've had a rough 24 hours. I want to do something for myself since I never do, and I have the day off. The time was 2:07 p.m. when I decided and bought the tickets for the 2:15 showing, the real 3D of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I got there at 2:25. I used my reward to purchase a large popcorn and large icy. I was so excited to be an AMC Stubs member. Dude, you collect rewards and movies cost you nothing? Well, kind of. But this movie experience cost me a total of $1.43. I sat down so happily, so content, so excited to finally meet Mario, Luigi, and Princess Peach for the very first time. Kids, adults, everyone around me was so ready, so excited. And let me tell you what, this was the most boring movie I've ever seen. Hello, my name is Ivan Montero, and thank you for joining me in my journey to watch every movie ever created. Not really, but we are gonna get close. Yo, I had such high hopes for this movie. I even defended the Jack Black casting, and boy was I wrong there. This is gonna be a spoiler-free review. I will make a spoiler-ish version, kind of. We're basically gonna be talking about what I think could have made the movie better, aka adding a couple character arcs that inadvertently adds a story, because this movie has no story whatsoever. It's so bad. The writing in this movie is so insanely bad. A lot happens, but honestly, nothing happens at the same time, to the point where it is almost impossible to do a accurate representation of a spoiler and a spoiler-free review, honestly. It's just, this movie is not a movie. It's not a movie. My thesis for this movie, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, should be retitled to the Easter Egg Movie. I actually tweeted that to Grace Randolph, and she liked it, and I'm entirely giddy. I love her so much. She's just so knowledgeable about everything. I understand that everyone has certain tastes and different priorities when it comes to consuming media. So I understand if you were to watch this movie and think, as the kids say, is the GOAT. However, I truly think this movie missed every single mark for storytelling. I was so massively bored. I really could not comprehend how bored I was sitting and watching this movie. And if it weren't for the fact that I really wanted to make a review on this movie, I don't really know what I would have done. Granted, it was a free movie and I did spend about $1.43, so I really wanted to get my $1.43 back. And honestly, I don't think I did. I think I was more bored in this movie than I was in Ant-Man Quantumania, and I was flat out bored in that one. I think part of the problem is the opening scene is just a slightly extended version of the second trailer of Mario that we got. I say slightly because the pacing is so insanely off that even within the first few minutes of the film, the scene somehow seems shorter than the actual 30 seconds of it that we got in the trailer. The pacing, mind you, doesn't get better from here. Contrastingly, this movie is also very pretty. So it's a visual feast for sure, but that's really the only thing that it has going for it in terms of story. Because honestly, the story is completely absent. Let me compare this movie with another movie that everybody loves for some reason. James Wan's Aquaman. That movie is also incredibly boring. It has no narrative foundation upon which to stand. I watched that movie on a 6-hour flight once, and I had to skip. I skipped through the scenes because I was just so incredibly bored. I just wanted to get to the next thing. The reason? The movie uses fight scenes way too often. A lot of people complain that, oh, superhero movies don't have that many fight scenes, but this one had way too many. And in fact, it used fight scenes to transition from one scene to another. The fight scenes never landed or stood on their own. 'Twas just plot devices to transition from scene A to scene B, or sequence A or sequence B. It's such a bad movie. I cannot. This movie does the exact same thing, but with Easter eggs. Nothing in this movie stands alone as a plot point, but everything stands as a plot device. You can take almost every Easter egg out of this film, and you have, well, dry bones. This movie presented situations and its characters with the attitude that we're getting cool Easter egg filled scenes and actually clever recreations of old video games just for the sake of it. But this movie's runtime is an hour and a half long, including the credits. That's not a lot of time at all. This movie wants to be huge and promises so much, but yet they show so insanely little of the overall world that the movie, though it promises lots of worlds and dimensions, and even teases Super Mario Galaxy, I think? I wouldn't know. Though it promises all of that, it still seems very, very small in scale. Yeah, they had a montage of going through worlds, but that lasted about 30 seconds. It's almost equivalent to Multiverse of Madness, how they had multiverses because they just happened to stumble along through. No, they didn't. That's cheap. That was dumb. Actually show us these worlds. The Lego Movie did it just fine. Speaking of the Lego Movie, the writer of this movie wrote the Lego Movie Part 2, which is not that good in comparison to the first one. Throwing that out there. They really did do a poor job in explaining anything of the lore or of what's going on in this movie whatsoever. I could follow along pretty well and recognized a lot of the Easter eggs just from having intuitive knowledge and from my friends and watching videos about Mario, because I can get excited about something I don't know about just because other people are excited about it. However, I found myself at one point during what I can only assume is a preview of the third act, physically moving my arm upward toward the screen to double tap to skip through. Though my takeaway was how incredibly, massively addicted I am to watching things on my phone. When they revealed pretty early on in the film Bowser's motivations for the entirety of the film, I could not believe it. Before the movie came out, and based on the teaser trailer alone that barely showed anything, I predicted that Luigi was going to get captured by Bowser instead of Peach, and Peach and Mario will have to go save him because a damsel in distress storyline can be, you know, a little problematic in this day and age. I truly believe the writers were in the writer's room giggling, thinking, hee 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 hee, we came up with a better motivation for Bowser to take over the world, hee hee hee, we're geniuses. But no. All they did was strip Bowser of any agency and any decency whatsoever. They replaced the problematic damsel in distress storyline with the other problematic storyline of the hero versus the villain because the villain simply wants the girl just because the girl. That's the whole point of the movie. That's the movie in a nutshell. Bowser wants to marry Peach and is angry that Mario is hanging out with Peach. Apparently that's in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. They tried to remedy that by making Peach, honestly, super cool. Not gonna lie, she's pretty cool in this movie. That didn't really give her much else. She never really needed a saving. She never really actually needed Mario to begin with. I understand the motivations why Peach kept Mario around. Spoilers, so I can't say. But it was so massively unclear that that was her motivation and that's what she was doing. Princess Peach had zero princessing to do throughout this entire film. Instead, she's more like a general. General Peach, which is cool. I mean, hey, General Organa, right? Don't get me wrong, she's not a Mary Stu by any means. She just doesn't really exist other than being a wannabe trophy wife for Bowser, and I find that to be insanely problematic. Because, honestly, here's the question. How is that better? Idolizing women because women, isn't that basically saying women's only purpose in life is to be idolized and craved by older pervy men and they have nothing going for them, even no matter how cool or talented or capable they are being just them on their own? How in 2023 we've backtracked this far and we're telling this type of story? It's not okay. It's not okay. It's really not okay. The characters are handled so poorly. We'll jack back and talk about Jack Black, but dang, what a horrible miscast. They also showed his characters' backstories way too late and way just at the most inopportune moments throughout the film. They tried to show us how these characters are in their normal world, and if I hadn't studied screenwriting and character arcs for years, I would have been so lost. Let's talk about actors and characters to round this out, seeing as the story literally doesn't exist and there's nothing else more to talk about. I'll keep these brief and talk about them more in my spoiler section because boy, there's stuff to say and there's stuff to correct, and I'm definitely gonna try to correct this movie in my spoiler review. The movie pays homage to Charles Martinet. They even have him in a Stan Lee style like cameo. What's more, they even do the accents in the second opening sequence because this movie can never decide to just end the film or even start it, but I genuinely could not tell if this was Chris Pratt or Charles Martinet. It seemed like it was Pratt and Charlie Day basically nailing the Italian accents and their character pitches, but then they quickly joke about it and how offensive it would be. But honestly, literally everybody wanted those accents. But instead, you give us barely an accent? Pratt's Brooklyn accent was fine when it was around, but he lost it a few times, and all I could hear was just bad directing. This Mario man is given no agency whatsoever, and his character goes from being super intuitive and proactive to just a bumbling idiot whenever he arrives in the Mushroom Kingdom. Honestly, Mario in this movie is a full-on Gary Stu. And they try to hide it by pulling in Captain America. That's all I'll say. If you've seen the movie, you will understand what I mean. My main man, Luigi. He's my favorite character. I've always liked playing as Luigi way more than I liked playing as Mario. Maybe because he was taller, can jump higher, he always wore green. My main man, Luigi, was turned into a loser. I don't even care at this point. That man does absolutely nothing in the entire movie. I feel bad for Charlie Day because it seems like he might have just been called in to read 20 lines or they cut out a majority of his lines because this Luigi is so insanely silent throughout all of the film. For a movie called The Super Mario Bros. Movie, the bro is quite absent a lot. They tried to show us that Luigi is scared of everything, and they do a very poor job at it. They just make him look like a flat-out loser and like a bumbling idiot ×2. By the end, his forced story arc is not believable or realistic whatsoever. And again, I feel so bad because I love It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I love Charlie Day so much. I think he's hilarious, and I think he's insanely talented. This casting should have been a no-brainer, but the directors really held Charlie Day back because I've heard him do a better Luigi impression in It's Always Sunny, and I was highly disappointed with this depiction, insanely disappointed. Keegan-Michael Key is such a delight. He's unrecognizable. He's on fire, but he's got little to do. He's just there to be, and it kind of hurts because he's given no backstory to this Toad and why he is and why everyone treats him the way they do. And he forces his way into the group, and it really does seem like Toad is forcing his way into the movie. It's sad. Donkey Kong was fine. Seth Rogen really did try something different here, which I was not expecting, and I kind of appreciated the take, but I'm really tired of this dad not approving the son storyline. We've seen it so many times. Can Seth Rogen and Chris Pratt ever escape this storyline? But if I were the director, I would have told Seth Rogen, please, for the love of God, you're not Blob, you're Donkey Kong. Find a new laugh. That laugh is getting on my nerves. That's not called acting, that's called plagiarism. Peach. We've already talked about Peach. The only thing I'll say is that Anya Taylor-Joy is Princess Peach. She did phenomenally. She carried the entire movie. Honestly, this seemed more like Peach's movie than Mario's movie. Anya Taylor-Joy is so good at voice acting. Sorry for saying this, but she is definitely General Peach and not Princess Peach. She is far from being a princess in this movie. And I really do hope they do something more with her because dang, what a cool character. Finally, Jack Black as Bowser. What a mistake. I don't know who I would have chosen, but certainly not Jack Black. His Bowser's dignity is absolutely robbed from him every single time he appears on screen. His musical number, the only musical number in the entire film, I would bet money, hard-earned money, that Jack Black came up with this idea and somehow absolutely nobody laughed in my theater. Not even the children. Nobody liked it. I even heard a couple groans. Jack Black needs to stop being himself in movies, because that's called not acting. Want to know the only joke that made people laugh? It was Mario turning into a cat, which is not a spoiler, it's in the trailer, but this joke got the kids giggling. They didn't really laugh, they just giggled. I felt flat out uncomfortable. I know this happens in the games, and it's likely for the furry folk. The usage behind this power-up in the film was a little demeaning for Mario. We do get a lot of Easter eggs, but very little substance. Even then, the Easter eggs we did get are brushed away so insanely fast, it's like they're rapid-firing Easter eggs at us out of a turret. I guarantee you, if this movie was just even a full 2 hours, they would have had the room to truly tell the correct story here with the correct amount of Easter eggs and action scenes. This movie is simply checking off the boxes for what makes an adventure movie and never really once bothered to check their checklist for what makes good storytelling and good character arcs. Who is this movie for? I sincerely cannot tell you, man. I have no idea. I thought sitting in a movie theater with a variety of ages would clue me in as who the movie is for, but everyone in the movie was dead silent throughout the entire film. When the movie was over, one mom behind me even told her child, "Wasn't that great? Was that everything you ever wanted?" And the child, I swear about 8 years old, audibly said, it was alright. Oof. The Easter egg movie seemed fun to the eye. Hold on. The Super Mario Bros. Movie, there we go, made many promises that didn't quite land for me in terms of storytelling. If you like pretty visuals and couldn't care less about good story, then this is the movie for you. You'll definitely enjoy it. I've already talked to a few people who have agreed with me and some people who just don't really care and said it was aight, and I've heard some people say it was one of the best things they've ever seen, which makes sense for who they are. But let me tell you what, man, the final very, very brief, unnecessary scene with Luigi and Mario right before cutting to the main credits that gave us little information whatsoever, I audibly said, that's how they ended this movie? The movie does have a tag right after that, but it has 2 post-credit scenes, one mid-credits and one all the way at the very end, which is asking way too much. But let me tell you what, man, they should have left out that first post-credit scene and replaced it with this second one. In fact, they should have put that second one as the tag and left the first tag as the last post-credit scene. Watch my spoiler review, you'll understand because I'm gonna explain it there. Everybody left after the tag. Nobody assumed that the Mario Bros. Movie would have more to it. It's just basic advertising. So what do I rate this movie? I think I rate this movie a 4.5 out of 10. I sat on it all throughout the night thinking I was gonna give it a 5 out of 10, but honestly, this movie is so incredibly bad, I cannot give it more than 4.5, and that's being generous because the movie is honestly very visually pleasing with a lot of cool art, and again, there's Easter eggs galore, so if you played this game when you're growing up, you might like it. And I say might because again, I don't know. My theater's reaction was just so mute. Have you guys seen this movie? If you have, let me know in the comments down below. This is a spoiler-free review, so please no spoilers. And if it is a spoiler, I will delete it. Check out my channel for other videos and be on the lookout for my spoiler review where you can do spoiler comments there. I do reactions, reviews, breakdowns, and theories on this channel, so please go ahead, check that out. I'm also a freelance photographer and graphic designer and writing consultant, so if you have needs in any of these 3 areas, check out my website and send me a message. My social media links are in the description below, and I will see you next time. You've just been Montified.